So I know you're aware that Sean Combs just got arrested on Monday, September 16th at his hotel, which was the Park Hyatt Hotel in New York. Now, his attorney is reported to say that he was disappointed in the arrest, and the reason for this was because he actually had been in communication and contact and cooperating with the government doing this investigation. And get this, he had actually been communicating and cooperating with their investigation before they actually invaded his homes in LA and Miami. And on top of everything else, they had communicated with the government and said that, hey, Puffy is going to pay off the mortgage in his house in Miami, and he's going to relocate to New York and turn himself in. In fact, what happened is that his house, or mansion rather, in Miami had, I think it had like 40, it was worth $48 million, and he owed $18 million on it. He paid it off so that the property would not be encumbered by a mortgage. And he did that because it would be used as collateral for his bail. So for instance, if he were to skip court, then the government could seize his home. So it was used as a security blanket, if you will. And this was communicated to the government. In addition to that, his attorney actually told the government's attorney, said, listen, he's relocating to New York. He's going to be staying at this hotel. And then when he had to leave that particular hotel because there were reservations and they needed the room and the space, they actually said he's going to be staying at this hotel, which is where he was arrested. So to say the least, if I were his attorney, I would be upset too. I would be disappointed. I mean, the word disappointed is probably a nice word of saying it. And to say the least, I'm sure Puff Daddy is, taken by surprise as well. Anyway, I actually had an opportunity to look at the press release that was given by the United States Attorney's Office for the Southern District of New York. And in the press release, they actually said for at least 2008 through the day that he was arrested, Combs led a criminal enterprise that existed to facilitate his abuse and exploitation of women and to protect his reputation, to conceal his illegal conduct. Now, when he got arrested, you guys probably already know this, but when he got arrested, he actually was denied bond. So the judge in that case, which is the magistrate judge, denied the bond under the belief that he might be a flight risk and might intimidate witnesses. So his attorney actually filed an application, or he appealed to the next judge up. And that judge is the presiding judge. That judge is Andrew Carter, right? And so what he did, the attorney prepared a 15-page, very, very, very detailed letter ahead of the hearing for bail. And in that letter, it actually spelled out all the reasons and rationales why the court should actually grant a bail. And quite frankly, I think the court should have granted a bail. I cannot understand for the life of me why they did not. But this is the thing. The government argued that he should not be granted a bail because he actually intimidated witnesses. Now, what they argued was that he actually contacted a grand jury witness. Now, on the flip side of that, the attorney representing Puff Daddy said, we are entitled to contact witnesses, even if those witnesses are grand jury witnesses. You know what? He's absolutely right. He has a constitutional right to contact witnesses, even if those witnesses are grand jury witnesses. And so that is not an argument, in my opinion, it's not a real good argument of intimidating witnesses. Now, I think one of the things that the state was saying is that Puff Daddy was trying to tell them or direct their conversation about this, you did this voluntarily or something like that. But in any event, the argument that was made by the attorney for Puff Daddy, I think, was a plausible explanation, not to mention the fact that it is his right to contact witnesses. This government is also arguing that he obstructed justice. And one of the ways that he obstructed justice was that he utilized his staff at his office, at his home, his businesses, and his security staff to conduct these illegal behavior, illegal acts, and that somehow obstructed justice. Now, his attorney argued that that's not obstruction. And I agree, because obstruction means that you interfere with the government's ability to do their job. You interfere with the government's ability to conduct their investigation and bring justice, create justice. So I don't understand it either. I completely disagree with the court's ruling. I don't understand it. But in any event, I don't think that this is the last time that the attorney is going to request a bail. He might get denied again, but until then, Puff got to actually stay in jail, and he's at the Brooklyn jail. And honey, word on the street is that jail is notoriously really, really bad. Okay, really bad. But he's in solitary, and he's under suicide watch, which is customary for especially cases for inmates, but especially for cases of this high profile nature. So he's in solitary confinement. He's actually being watched continuously. And it is also being reported that he is actually has a target on his back. And what that means is that folks know he's actually in that jail, and that there's a chance that he might be harmed. And if he's harmed, other members in the jail who do that is going to get some kind of credit or something like that. But that's what's been rumored. I've heard that in other like news outlet, that he has a target on his back. In any event, what I've done, I've actually had a chance to look at the indictment, and unlike what I've heard from a lot of news outlets, like I've heard from a lot of legal experts, a lot of attorneys who are not attorneys, and just people that have an interest in this case. And I just have a complete different opinion about it, like totally different. There's only one attorney that I listened to. She was on a news outlet. Only one attorney that actually shared the same opinion that I do. So the first thing, the indictment is 14 pages long. Everybody's heard that, right? But so what? Because in this 14-page document, he's charged with only 3 crimes. Now, I'm not going to sugarcoat it, because those charges are serious charges, right? They're not something to be played with. But the charges, and I'm going to tell you, the charges are he's charged with 1 count of racketeering conspiracy. Now, one of the reasons why this is a serious charge is because it carries with them a lifetime sentence in prison. So it's serious, no doubt about it, right? And then he's also charged with sex trafficking by force, fraud, or coercion. And that carries with it also a lifetime sentence in prison with a minimum of 15 years to serve. And so what that means is that if he gets found guilty on that particular charge, then he actually has to serve 15 years. The judge doesn't have any discretion to actually charge him less than that, because the statute is written such that he has to do that. And it's Congress that actually set this out, right? And then he's also charged with transporting across state lines for the purposes of prostitution. And that crime comes with a maximum sentence of 10 years. And it is because one of the reasons why this case is in federal court, it is because he is alleged to have conducted illegal behavior across state lines. So this is just an outline of the crimes he's alleged to have committed, right? Well, the indictment to me seems interesting, right? It seems interesting because it reads like it is the act of a gangster or a mob, right? In fact, they have charged him with RICO or racketeering. And what that means is that an individual has engaged in a pattern or organized crime and a pattern of criminal behavior over a course of several years and across state lines. Usually RICO and racketeering is designed for gangsters, mobsters, and stuff like that. And usually what happens is that the defendant have deprived an individual either their life or their liberty or their finance or something like this. In this case, they're alleging that Sean Puffy Combs engaged in a criminal organized crime or a criminal enterprise, and they call this enterprise Comb Enterprise, utilizing his various businesses, his the record company Bad Boy Entertainment, his clothing line, the alcohol spirits company, and they're using that along with his staff, his security staff, his people that works with him, saying and other members of his employments, using all these folks to help him achieve these goals. But you know what's interesting about it? Is that they're saying that he committed all these crimes to satisfy and fulfill his sexual desires. This just doesn't make any sense to me, because generally when you have RICO, when you have racketeering cases like that, you're depriving someone of some crime. You're depriving them, but they're saying he did this stuff for his own sexual gratification. But that other maybe 14, 13 pages of explanation that supposed to support these charges is that what he did is that he lured women into his home under the auspices that they were going to have a romantic relationship with him, but it was actually for the purposes of them engaging in what they're calling freak-offs. And these freak-offs are essentially orgies, but these orgies last for like days at a time, and they were forced to have sex with sex workers, and these were paid sex workers, right? And these sex off were actually filmed, directed, and orchestrated by Puff Daddy himself. So he had his own little film crew in there. He was the man in charge. So he was doing that, and supposedly he forced these women to continue to behave and to engage in these freak-offs for fear that he would not support their career, he would tank their career, and he would threaten them by showing these videos if they didn't comply. Then on top of everything else, after these freak-offs ended, he would employ some of his workers to actually give them some drugs or some intravenous medicine or something to revive them. So this is supposing the criminal enterprise, the racketeering RICO that they're saying. But you know, the other thing that I find very, very interesting about this case is that there's nothing in this indictment that points the finger to actually what he did and to who he did. They do reference victim number one. Victim one is supposedly Miss Ventura, Cassandra Ventura, and you guys know who that is. She is his long-term off and on girlfriend, and she's the one that was in the video that was shown where he beat her, hit her, knocked her down, all that other stuff, right? And she is also the one that filed the lawsuit last year for $30 million, which settled the very next day. Well, in that 15-page letter that was written by his attorney, he addressed that issue as well. And even with that explanation, I think it was an argument. I wouldn't say it makes sense. It's an argument that supports their defense. And what they're essentially saying is not proof that what happened is that it wasn't consensual. And that is the biggest thing. So listen, I may engage in an activity that you might think is deplorable, heinous, against God's word. It's grotesque. It's all kinds of stuff, right? It's just nasty, nasty, nasty. But if I consented to it, guess what? It ain't a crime. It's just that doggone freaking simple. It is not a crime. Also, what I find interesting about this indictment is that while it may be very detailed in terms of what he supposedly did, to garner or to support these charges against him, it doesn't necessarily say what specifically he did to who he did it with. And the only person that they said is this victim number one. And of course, one of the arguments that's been made by the defense, which is Puff Daddy's attorney, is that she engaged in this stuff voluntarily, and she created this whole thing, which again, is just an argument, right? Because she's, kind of like trying to blackmail him, if you will. But this is what I'm saying. I'm not moved just because they actually got this indictment. Indictment looked ugly. Because like I said before, when I was in law school, we were told that you can indict a ham sandwich. And the reason for that is because in grand jury, you can present anything that you can't present at trial. So in grand jury, you can present hearsay stuff. You can present stuff that somebody told you, somebody said this. You present absolutely anything in grand jury that can't come in trial. So just because he got this ugly indictment, that doesn't mean that this is a slam dunk case. And this is what I keep hearing from people. And the fact that he was actually denied bail twice, it doesn't say that he's guilty or that it's slammed down. What I'm simply saying, listen, stop believing the hype. Let the evidence come out and play out. let this man enjoy the beauty and the benefit and the rights. Really, it is a constitutional right to be innocent until he's proven guilty. Anyway, this is Lady Justice, just giving my little 2 cents on what's happening with the Sean Puffy Combs criminal matter, and I got lots more to come. I want to talk about everything involved in this, and if you guys are interested, go ahead and like, share, and subscribe to the channel.